Detroit is known to keep it real. Detroit is the city of what up, though. What up, though? That's our greeting. That's our departing greeting. That's our concern. But all of that type of stuff aside, listen, Detroit is represented by a working class, by some hardworking people, by some people who go through the struggle, by some people who've been through some things in their life. And so that's why my first thought when I heard that Charlamagne Tha God was coming to Detroit and he was going to do the interview with Kamala, I'm like, hold on. How y'all going to have Charlamagne Tha God do an interview with Detroit with Kamala Harris when there's so many other people in Detroit that's qualified to do that same interview? So that was my first thought, right? But I have to say, and I have to be honest with myself and be honest with my audience and say that Charlamagne Tha God did a great job. He didn't pull no punches. He wasn't trying to hit with gloves on. He stuck to the point. He made her answer questions. And that's all you could really ask for. That's all you can really ask for in a real interview. An interview where, unlike in what's his name, Pastor Lorenzo Sowell's church, the 180 church in Detroit that Trump came to and spoke at, and now that pastor is all up Trump's butt. Like Trump is the all in all. He's just everything. He's the God right now. I truly understand why they say separate politics and church. I truly understand that, because you get these pastors that y'all know what I'm saying. Y'all know exactly what I'm saying. We need people that's not going to be afraid to ask the real questions, the hard questions. We need people that's going to stand up for the people. We need people that really understands and stands with the people. We need people who's going to call a spade, no matter who it is. And we don't have that in this political arena too much, where we have journalists calling a spade. Usually it's a journalist from Fox who obviously are always against the Democrats, or CNN who's always against the Republicans. And we need people to be, because all of this confusion that's going on, all of this stuff go on to the detriment of the people. To the detriment of the people. So why these people are blaming these people and vice versa, all the people in the middle, which is the little people like us, we suffer. Because they don't have a problem with getting their groceries. They don't have a problem paying the gas. They don't even pay for gas because they got government cards and stuff. So while they going through all of this nonsense, and while they fighting for our votes, telling us lies or half truths, and it's not all the time, but we know what they do. Why they doing all of this stuff to get our votes, talking about one another and all this other stuff, we suffering. We still got to feed our children. We still got to pay our rent at the little rinky-dink house that we got when they stay in big houses on the hill. That's why we got to hold them accountable. That's why we got to hold them accountable. And I think that Charlamagne Tha God did a great job at holding Kamala Harris accountable. He pressed her on issues. the one question that I really like that he asked Kamala Harris, he said, people have said that you are more robotic with your answers, like it's scripted. And she said, no, that's called discipline. She said, because I want to make sure that I am making my point and that people hear my point and that I don't stray away from my point. She said, that's called discipline. And I could not agree more that that's called discipline. I could not agree more that that is called discipline. I also like when the rapper, Detroit rapper, Ice Web Vezo asked the question about, Ice Web Vezo asked a different question. Zeke of Detroit era, new era Detroit rather, he asked the question about the reparations question. He brought that back up. And she didn't stray away from that question either. She didn't stray away from that question. And I think that the way she answered that question, and I think that told a story. I think that told a story of her resilience, her strength, her pride in herself and the things that she know and the things that she know that she could do. But what caught my ear most is when rapper Ice Web Vezo asked her a few questions. And this is what really, really set the tone for everything and the future that I see that's going to be a future of success for her. She not only did she answer his question, but she took him back to even before she was the VP. She said, I've been doing this stuff. So don't think that because you hear me talking about it now that I just started fighting for Black people or fighting for minorities or fighting for low-income communities or fighting for better housing. Don't think that I just started this. She said, I've been doing this. Look up my record. See, how many politicians challenge their viewers, their supporters, their naysayers to look at their record? How many politicians do that? She told Ice Web Vezo, she said, I've been doing this work. I've been fighting for higher wages. I've been fighting for lower home costs. I've been fighting for monies to go to lower income neighborhoods. I've been fighting for better health care for Black men because we know that Black men are so likely or highly likely to have certain, cancers and things like that. She said, I've been doing this stuff prior to me becoming VP. Marcia Flinchbow, you are a hater, and the truth ain't in you. See, that's the problem. I like people just to be real. If somebody is being real, if somebody did something right, give them their roses. Give them their roses. But the devil always, I don't care how much right you can do, the devil gonna always find a way to say that you're wrong. You tell me what Donald Trump done, and I'll tell you what Kamala Harris has done. How about that? So listen, we're going to always have naysayers who just hate the skin that people in. I'm not talking about the skin tone. Just hate the skin that people in. It don't matter if you're dark skin, light skin, pale skin, gray skin, red skin. Some people are just going to hate the skin that people in. Why? Because they hate themselves. They can't stomach the idea that someone beat them to the punch, that someone is utilizing their intelligence, that someone is utilizing their gift to help build the world to be a better place, as opposed to tearing down people with their thoughts. Some people are moving forward to help uplift humanity and not tear it down. And we have people who can't stomach that. They don't like that. They don't like that a woman is running for president. They don't like the fact that that woman that's running for president is a younger woman. That woman who's running for president, I don't even have to say it. Y'all already know where I'm going. Because if it were somebody else wearing a different paint job, she would not catch the flack that Kamala Harris is catching. What is my weekly grocery bill? I don't have a weekly grocery bill. I don't go to the grocery store weekly. Every other week I would go. But in any event, if anyone understands the great position that the world is being placed in today, and the job that we're being called to do, because we're being called to do a job. It's just a matter of whether or not we're going to answer that call. Are we going to answer the call? See, because it's time out for thinking that this president is only your president. It's like having a brother and a sister, and you have a mother and a father. That's the mother and father of your brother and sister as well. That's not only your mother and father. They have to represent the whole house. That's the job of the president, to represent the entire United States, everybody in the United States, not just a certain sector of people, their supporters. Jaden Chad keeps asking, host, what is your grocery bill? You can keep asking till your face turn blue. I already answered it. What is your grocery bill? So listen, let me go on here right quick. So I think it's very imperative that we understand what we're being called to do. Because we keep on trying to put the onus on these elected officials, like they're going to be the one to change our lives. They work for us. Have we not forgot that? That they work for us? The sooner we realize that they work for us, we will then begin to hold them accountable. I don't care who it is, Kamala, Trump, whoever. They must be held accountable if they want our vote. They must be held accountable if they say they want to represent us. They must be held accountable if they assume the highest office, the middle office, or the lower office. They must be held accountable if they say they represent the voice of the people. They must be held accountable if they say that they want to put their feet in the ring of politics, represent the people, decide on where our taxpayer money is going. Who cares about the candidate? We care about the politics that will affect us. I agree 110%. If they do not have the policies that affect us, then I do not give a doggone who the hell they are, how much money they have, what their background is. If they don't have the policies that represent my interests, then the hell with them. Simple. So again, Kamala Harris did her interview with Charlamagne Tha God yesterday. Did anybody on here see that interview? Let me see. Did anybody on here see that interview? Oh, no. Did anybody on here see that interview with Charlamagne Tha God, what he did with Kamala Harris yesterday? I watched it. I heard it. I listened very closely to it. And man, I have to say that I honestly was not in support of Charlamagne Tha God doing an interview in Detroit, where I'm from, doing an interview with Kamala Harris. I just wasn't with that, right? I wasn't with it because I felt like it's people in Detroit that's equally qualified or more qualified to do that interview. That's how I felt. But after hearing how the interview progressed and how he stayed and he pressed her on certain issues, I had to accept that he was doing a great job. I give him all kudos because I thought he was going to have soft hands with her. He didn't. I thought he was going to have soft hands with her. I thought he was going to let her get by on certain stuff, not answer certain questions. He didn't do that. He was straight up and down. And she didn't try to get away with no questions either. So my question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think the interview, Kamala Harris's interview, went yesterday with Charlamagne Tha God? I have somebody right here, Ralph Carruthers. He said he give it a 10. He give it a 10. The interview was a 10 for him. So, hold up 1 second, y'all. That interview for him, I think, in my mind, that the interview was also, I think it was a 10. He said not good because she's doing Fox, which is panic mode. Oh, just by the way, right now, Kamala Harris is in Pennsylvania meeting with 100 members of the Grand Old Party. That's the GOP. Who got the guts? Who got the guts to go up in the lion's den? Who got the guts to go up into the lion's den and say, let's talk? That's why this is what separates the real from the fake. This is what separates the politician from the politics. This is what separates those who are about humanity and those who are about money. This is what separates dictators from democracy. This is what separates that. When you decide that I stand on policy so strong that I can go anywhere
and talk about my policies. I go into the lion's den. Kamala Harris is for the people. I will honestly say I listened to all her interviews. I listened to some of her goofy interviews from a year ago, a year before that. But the one takeaway that I had from each interview, and I'm just being honest, y'all. I'm just being honest. The one takeaway that I have of the interviews that I have listened to and seen with Kamala Harris, the takeaway that I left away with was that she real. She real. She choose her words carefully. As she told Charlamagne Tha God in response to Ice Wear Vezzo's question, in response to Charlamagne Tha God's question, when he asked her, he said he read that she's kind of robotic in her answers. What do you have to say about that? That is like you always scripted. She said, no, I'm disciplined. I'm disciplined. And what I heard when she said that she's disciplined is I heard the separation of her discipline with somebody who always speaks off the cuff and always off the record and always ends up biting his tongue because he's not disciplined. So when I hear a candidate who talks about, I don't repeat everything I say because I'm a robot or because it's scripted. I say this stuff because I'm disciplined and I understand that I must make this point. It's no different than a commercial. They keep running a commercial. Why? So people can get the point. Especially during a Super Bowl, what do? They will play a commercial back to back to back to back to back so people can get the point. So it's not mere talking points. You know, practice make perfect. So kudos to Kamala Harris. She doing a great job. She did a great job, and I think that she's going to continue to do a great job. I love the fact that Kamala Harris talked about her past record. She talked about her past record, not to gloat about it, but to show her realness in the fact that she's been fighting for better wages, better housing, tax breaks, more money going back into communities. She's been fighting for these things. Other people are just finding out. Other people are just finding out that she's been doing these things. And I think that that's the great thing about her. You know, at one point, and I'm sure it's going to come back up that the naysayer is going to say, well, she's a prosecutor and she locked up a lot of black men. You know, when people say that, and I keep hearing that, she locked up a lot of black men. What are you really trying to say? Because when you say that she locked up a lot of black men, I think that tells of your mindset. Why couldn't it just be she locked up a lot of people? Why is it that she locked up a lot of black men? I implore any and everybody. To look up and think about what I'm saying and look it up. How people, when they talk about her prosecutor history, they say she locked up a lot of black men. So what are they trying to say? Come on. Or are they trying to incite a certain people? Provoke a certain people? She locked up a lot of black men. I think that in all fairness, if any one of us have any modicum of common sense in our heads, which I know we do, then we must understand the job of the prosecutor. A case come on their desk, they pursue justice in that case. Not all the time are they right,
because they're human beings. Not all the time are they just because they're human beings. But all the time they have a job to do on behalf of the people. So when we throw a person's history up in the air like this, and we say that's a prosecutor, they locked up a lot of black men. I just want to say something else, y'all. This is very interesting right here, because I didn't know this either. I honestly didn't. She said she's fighting, and she's been fighting prior to VP status. She's been fighting to make marijuana legal across the board. She's been fighting to end mass incarceration. So I checked her record. I didn't want to just hear it. I wanted to check the record. And she's been doing it. Now, when you talk about marijuana, for example, there's a lot of men and women in prison still to this very day because they was convicted of selling marijuana, right? Years ago, selling marijuana. Alex Enfield said, "Who cares? You must care because you still on my live." I thank you for being there. I asked any and everybody to share this live feed out, y'all. Share this live feed out. I'm not welcoming nobody on here as a guest whom I even think trying to come on here and cause some confusion, unnecessary debates. I'm about debate, but not unnecessary debate. If you can't teach me something or I can't teach you something, ain't no use in you trying to come on my feed. Simple as that. Let me say that again. If you can't teach me something, because I'm willing to learn, and if you're not willing to learn something, then ain't no use in us talking, ain't no use in us sharing the same space because you ain't on my level. And that's just simple as that. So I ask that y'all share out my live feed. Yes. Share out my live feed, y'all. So I just got a couple messages from TikTok. You know, probably somebody trying to report me or something because the truth hurts. Somebody trying to report me because the truth hurts. But guess what? I'm going to keep telling the truth. So you might as well get the Band-Aids and bandages ready because it's about to hurt. It's about to hurt. Because when you have candidates that get up and they lie to our face every day and we support them and they lie again and we support them, we have been so indoctrinated to believe that lie that we don't even know when the truth is right before us. Let me say that again. We have been indoctrinated with lies by politicians for so long that we can't even recognize when the truth is before us. And Mike Berry, with all due respect, you say Trump is the truth, my brother. I'm not doubting that. I agree that everyone has their own opinion and everyone has to pursue the opinion that best fits them, pursue the policies that best fits them. So I'm never going to degrade, downgrade, or judge someone because you chose someone that I didn't choose. It's like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We know what that means. What may be beautiful to you may not be beautiful to me, but that don't mean it's not beautiful. The shoes that I wear may not fit your foot, but that don't mean that my shoes are any less fitting for my own feet. That don't mean because you don't like them that I shouldn't like them. See, we all got our own opinions, our own judgments. And we got to respect one another. We have to respect one another's positions on whatever it is, despite whether that position opposes our position. That don't make you a bad person because you oppose my position. That don't make me a bad person because I oppose yours. If I said right now, I don't like nothing about Donald Trump. Okay. How can you get mad at me? If you said right now, I don't like nothing about Kamala Harris, how could I get mad at you for stating your opinion? Now, I may challenge you and say, for example, what is it that you don't like? And we could have a discussion then, because we might find out that we share a lot of things in common. But that could only happen through discussion. That could only happen through respect, respectful dialogue. That's what's missing, respectful dialogue. Anybody who experienced presidential elections from the 70s or early 80s, we never seen mudslinging the way we see it nowadays. We never heard people having nicknames. What was it? Lion this person, Lion Hillary and all that stuff. We never heard none of this stuff back then because there was a respect for the office of presidency. And that's when we was respected around the world. That's when we were respected around the world. We were respected around the world when we maintained our professionalism, even in the face of a challenge by someone who did not agree with my position. As soon as we began taking pot shots and dragging people through the mud and trying to talk about what's in the closet, and those are all distractions that take away from the politics and the policies that affect my life. And when we began to join in on this circus, that's when a lot of our rights were being stripped. That's when a lot of laws were being passed that we didn't agree with, that didn't benefit us. That's when taxes were hiked and we didn't even know about it. That's when car insurance was hiked and we didn't even know about it. That's when housing insurance and housing costs skyrocketed and we didn't even know about it. And that's when Ponzi schemes were created and we didn't even know about it, because all we was entertained by was the mudslinging from this party to that party to this party. We got so caught up in that we lost sight. We lost sight of what was happening to us. It was kind of like, and I am going to say this with all pun intended, it was kind of like we attended a party, whichever party you attended, we attended a party and our drinks were spiked. Our drinks were spiked and we were indoctrinated to believe any and everything we were told at that point. We bought into any and everything. If I'm over here and I'm a Republican and you say you don't like that Democrat, I don't like them either. I'm a Democrat over here and this Democrat say you don't like that Republican, I don't like them either. Someone commented, they say, I don't care who the politician is. I care about the policies that affect my life. I don't care about the politician. I care about the policies that affect my life. I'll be the first person to say that Donald Trump did a few good things. Hands down, he did a few good things. I think that, and I have had this discussion with people, had arguments with people about it when I took this position. I said the one thing that I agree with about Donald Trump as opposed to Joe Biden ain't never been on the ground in Detroit. I don't care if Donald Trump was here just to pander for votes. It don't matter. He said he was coming and he came. Joe Biden never stepped foot in the McDonald's in the inner city Detroit. And I used to always tell people this. I said, that's what makes Donald Trump stand out to a lot of people. It's not that people agree with all of his policies. people agree with the realness of it. He's real about certain things. Even if that thing is just the coming for with bad intentions or in bad faith, he say, I'm coming to Detroit and I want to talk directly to the people in the hood. And then he come there. How do we not acknowledge that as some real stuff, even if he was doing it with bad intentions? And I acknowledge that. I remember the devil told me that if I go on and sell these drugs, he gonna make me rich. And he put me around a lot of drugs. And I became indoctrinated and brainwashed and sold those drugs. He ain't make me rich though. He put me in prison. But my point is that I was indoctrinated to believe it. That's when I knew that the devil was real. So for those who don't know me, I don't pull punches, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Kamala Harris, whether it's Joe Biden, or whoever the hell it is. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. I stand on the side of right. That's why I know I would never go wrong. When you're standing on the side of right, you cannot go wrong. Now, back to how I was saying that I did give Donald Trump some credit for keeping his word, whether it was built upon bad intentions and hidden agendas or not. He kept his word and came to the streets of Detroit and literally talked to the people in the streets of Detroit. And Joe Biden never did that. That's why I always told people he stand above Joe Biden. In my learnings, in organizing, we say that the story of self is the greatest story that you can ever tell. That's the story of self. That's the greatest story that you can ever tell. Why is it the greatest story that you could ever tell? Because the story of self tells of who you are, what you stand for, what your interests are, what your goals are, where you're at, and where you plan to be, and how you plan to get there. And I've always told people that that's why Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, because his story of self was more entertaining than the story of Hillary Clinton. Now, why am I saying all of this? Donald Trump had a very interesting story when he was telling to beat Hillary Clinton. That's what people bought into, the story. The story. The bravado. The way he told the story. All the ebbs and flows of the story. But that's what caught people ear and caught people eye. Now, again, why am I saying this? Because Kamala's story of self is so compelling. Her story of self is so interesting. Her story of self cannot be overlooked, undermined, or forgotten. When she had this interview with Charlamagne Tha God, she didn't just talk about what she's doing today. When she was pressed on, someone asked a question about why does it appear that election season come around and now she's trying to ramp up her pitch to black men. She said, I've been doing this. I've been doing this before I was vice president, way before this. She said, I've been doing this for years, trying to find a middle ground, trying to find a place where I can help, trying to get in where I fit in, trying to see what policies I can help move forward to get past so they can benefit low-income communities. Help lower the cost of life, the cost of homes, the cost of the taxes. Help lower medical costs. Help lower costs for seniors, home care patients, families who take care of their loved one for home care purposes. She said, I've been doing this. It's just that people just learning about it. And now I'm in this seat and now I'm being scrutinized. But if you would look at the record, you would see that Kamala Harris been a champion for all of these policies that she's pushing for right now. The things that she's laying out right now, that she's running on right now, she say, I've been doing this. Check my record. This is nothing new. So I think that what we need to start doing is familiarizing ourselves with our candidates. Let's familiarize ourselves with our candidate, and let's hold them accountable. Ocean said, don't trust her. Women against men right now. See, that's the problem. How could you be against your mother? How could you be against? When I say your mother, I'm talking about the woman. If it were not for the woman, it would not be a man. See, a woman behind every so-called strong man is a stronger woman. Listen, y'all, I appreciate everyone's opinion, right? I truly do. I appreciate everyone's opinion. But I am the type of person that, as I say, I call a spade a spade. And I have to say that some of y'all's opinions, you need to stick up your butt because you're not basing it on facts. You're not even basing it on policy. You're basing it on emotions, who I like. I just got through telling you a story about how I felt that Donald Trump was better than Joe Biden. This was months before Joe Biden said he wasn't running. I told people this because I felt that the few things that I liked about Donald Trump was more than the things that I liked about Joe Biden. I felt that no matter how disingenuous Donald Trump may appear to be on many, many occasions, he was more generous than Joe Biden. He was more steady, more balanced. And if you don't have any balance, in your approach to policy making and your approach to leadership, you're going to fail anyway. So when I say that I respect everyone's opinion, just because I respect it don't mean I agree with it. Just because I respect your opinion doesn't mean that I agree with your opinion. Because some people's opinion is rooted in evil. Some people's opinion is rooted in ignorance. Some people's opinion is rooted in tomfoolery. Some people's opinion is rooted in nothing but their own stupidity. I respect people's opinion that they truly stand on and that they have a leg to stand on, whether it's I agree with it or not. Ocean said Harris is not right. She do the devil's work. Okay, my brother, who don't do the devil's work? Most of us do the devil's work right to this very day, and we're doing it right now. So let's get our minds right and stop always trying to, we love to point the finger at people. We love to point the finger at people and talk about how devilish they are in their approach to trying to uplift fallen humanity or do something for the community. We always love to point the finger of the devil and say what they're not doing. My question is not what they do not doing. My question is, what are you doing? And I'm talking to me too. Because when I'm pointing fingers at people and I'm saying what they not doing, I got to ask myself, what are you doing? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. What are you doing to make your community and your society a better place? Because right now it's all hands on deck. It's all hands on deck. What are you doing? What are you willing to do? What sacrifices are you willing to make to see conditions better? Or in the words of Donald Trump, make America great again. What sacrifices are you willing to make America great again? See, because we have people hanging their hat on Donald Trump's head. But if you put all your hope into Donald Trump changing your life, then you're just looking for a dictator. You're looking for a dictator. You're looking for a master. See, I don't look for my politicians to be that to me because I know that they work for me. I'm the boss. I'm the boss. They work for me. They work for us. So we tell them what to do. And if they don't do what we telling them to do, we find our way to the polls and don't vote for them next time. That's where I think that we keep getting mixed up at. I think that Charlamagne Tha God had a very great interview with Kamala Harris, and I think I give her a 10 because she didn't shy away from a question. She didn't try to create diversions with her answers. She didn't try to split hairs. She answered the questions as they were asked. And I give her a lot more credit because she took notes. When somebody had multiple questions, she answered each and every question and then stated her position. I think that came in her prosecutor training. How you pay attention, you keep notes of every issue. And then after you address every issue, now you give your closing argument. So for those people who dislike Kamala Harris because she was a prosecutor, I say this with all sensitivity, with all concern, and with all due respect. When those little girls and those little boys were being taken advantage of by adults, when those women were being taken away and put into ex houses and becoming ex-slaves, some of those little girls and little boys and those women were our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, our friends. And we could only ask that someone steps up and fight on our behalf. Fight on our behalf in protection of some of our most sacred and some of our most vulnerable people in our population. That's the children and our women. And that's what Kamala Harris did. She took a stand when so many other prosecutors throughout the United States, I know in Michigan for sure because I'm in Michigan. When it comes to people committing those crimes against little girls and elderly and women, it's listen, they was getting the least amount of time across the board. They just start getting prison bits befitting of the crime. Because in Michigan, it has always been almost an unwritten policy that those who ape women, engage in X with children, insult or assault our elders, take women, they would always get the least amount of time. Some of them would get so little time that it was appalling. It was shocking. Because we didn't have a prosecutor who cared too much about the victims. We didn't have a prosecutor that cared too much about the victims. That's why they never pursued real justice against the offender. So now we find a former prosecutor who pursued justice against the offenders in these cases. And they just didn't pursue justice against the offender, but they put together policies to help the victims. They put together other criminal justice reform policies. I think that that's a sign of fairness, that you could fight so hard over here and you could also acknowledge the problem that exists over here. You could fight for the victims, but you could also fight for the defendants, because at the end of the day, your job is to pursue justice. And I think that Kamala Harris did a great job at pursuing justice as a prosecutor. I don't know all of her cases. I don't pretend to know all of her cases. But I do know that that's not an easy job to do. It's not an easy job to balance out. And you're going to catch flack one way or the other. That's just life. Cat Rich say because the child had sickle cell, she locked her up and it was embarrassing. Okay. I can state a lot of embarrassing stuff, such as spending $85,000 in 1991 to take out a full page ad and a whole bulletin board outside to call for the death penalty of 5 little black boys in New York, who was known as the Central Park Five. Spend $85,000. Do y'all hear me? Donald Trump spent $85,000 in 1991 to pursue the death penalty for 5 young black men for a crime that they repeatedly said they didn't even do. Listen. So if we can forgive things like that, if we can forgive Donald Trump for his housing discrimination against minorities and his father's discrimination against minorities, if we can forgive Donald Trump for admitting to grabbing women in their private areas, if we can forgive that, if we can forgive Donald Trump for labeling the Mexicans as the worst of the worst and all they do is ape and ill people and rob and all criminals, if we could forgive Donald Trump for that, if we could forgive Donald Trump for saying that our third world countries that they label as places like Africa ain't nothing but a poop hole, if we could forgive Donald Trump for talking about Detroit in the most demeaning manner just recently, if we can forgive Donald Trump for his bravado in saying that he could stand in the middle of Times Square and shoot someone and get away with it, if we can forgive Donald Trump for the racist statements that he made, if we can forgive Donald Trump for provoking and inciting the January 6th incident, if we can forgive Donald Trump for saying that there will be a bloodbath if he don't win this election, if we can forgive Donald Trump for hanging around with Epstein, all the parties with Epstein, and Epstein got convicted, hanging out at the Diddy parties, and we know what's going on there. If we can forgive Donald Trump, or did we really forgive, or did we just sweep that under the rug like we forgot? Because I didn't. I'm not even going to have to finish my sentence because I know and I understand that you people listening to me have great intelligence. You have great intelligence and you have great instincts. I remember a question that was asked to Usher about Diddy. This is when a lot of the allegations first came out about Diddy, when it really hit the airwaves just recently over the last year or so. And Usher said that he went through Diddy's flavor camp, but nobody ever tell what Diddy's flavor camp is. So the question to Usher was, would you send your child to Diddy's flavor camp? Usher said, hell no. So my question, would you put your life in Donald Trump's hands? Would you send your loved one, your female family member, to hang around Trump? Would you do that? See, that's the questions that I ask myself. That's how I kind of come up with my answers on which direction I'm going to go, whether it's in politics or whether it's in life in general. I pose those hypotheticals because the answer to those hypotheticals is the insight that I need to make the decision that I need to make. That's why when Usher was asked would he send his child to P. Diddy's flavor camp, he said absolutely not. That told the whole story. That told the whole story. The question before us today Do you think that Kamala Harris nailed her interview with Charlamagne Tha God? Do you think she nailed her interview? Do you think she answered the questions? Do you think she evaded some questions? Do you think she shied away from some questions? Do you think that she diverted from questions? Do you think that she tried to mislead the people? That's my only question. I didn't ask who you like. For example, if Donald Trump did an interview and somebody asked me a question from 1 to 10, what do you think of his interview? I might say, if it was good, I might say, yeah, that was a great interview. That was like 7 or 8 or something. They might say, well, what did you like about it? And I tell them what I like. Or if I say no, I don't like that interview. That was like a 2. What did you like about it? I can say with bullet points what I didn't like about it. I can say with bullet points what I didn't like about it. Like, for example, Trump finds his way to the churches in Detroit. As a pastor Lorenzo Sowell said, Lorenzo Sowell is the guy who Trump went to his church just recently. So he's going to kiss Trump's butt anyway. But here's this pastor, literally, he just said this today. Here's a pastor that says that there's 4,500 churches in Detroit. I see something wrong with that. If there's that many churches in Detroit, maybe therein lies the problem. That shows the disunity right there. That shows the separation from the people right there. If you got to have 4,500 different churches and you have a pastor who said that. So now my question, pastor, because this pastor didn't have nothing but bad things to say about it. He said, and I wrote it down. Let me. This is what Pastor Sowell said. He said, it was so bad that I had to write down what this guy said. Because he needed to be ashamed. He needed to be ashamed. He needed to be ashamed that he can admit that it was that many churches in Detroit and he not doing anything to bring them together. He said, Lorenzo Sowell of 180 Church, he said there's 4,500 churches in Detroit. He said he never, based on Kamala Harris's interview, this is what he said. He said he had never have been so offended in his life. He called Charlamagne Tha God a false god. You see my facial expression. I got a real question. Charlamagne Tha God, a false god. Okay. What are you doing, sir? What are you doing but being a puppet for Donald Trump? Licking his boots until he throw you away like he did Jackson a few years ago when he came to his church. Yeah. So we have these people who come out the woodwork to degrade Kamala Harris. He said he never felt so offended in his life. So let me ask you something. So you didn't take offense when Trump was talking about grabbing them women and what he'll do to women. He can do that to women because he got money. You never took offense to that. You never took offense to all the women who filed those lawsuits and won those lawsuits against Trump. You never took offense to that. You never took offense to Trump calling the people, calling African countries poop holes. You never took offense to that. You never took offense to Trump making so many racist innuendos. You never took offense to that. You never took offense to anything that Trump has done. But soon as somebody that looks like you says something or does something, you take offense to it. I don't think you are a man of God. That's what I think. And I said it, I meant it, and I welcome a debate anytime you're ready, Lorenzo Sowell. But you got to be ready. You can't come in with no you can't come in unprepared and talking that gibberish that you be talking. You got to be for real. See, because I represent the real people. I represent the voice of the real people. I'm in the streets of Detroit every single day trying to help somebody. And I don't see you. I respect people that's trying to help people. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whoever the heck you may be. I don't care about none of that. I care about what type of help you are trying to provide to get people on a better track of life. That's what I care about. That's what I care about. So all of these pastors and all that coming out of their bag and wanting to join forces with Trump, that represents the falsity of who you are to me. Especially when your church don't even agree with you. So now who are you representing? In those situations, sometimes you just don't even throw your hat in the ring. Stay representing the people. Stay representing the people. This is why I like what Kamala Harris said when she said, I've been doing this work. I've been fighting for the people. I didn't just start this when I became vice president or when I became running for president. I've been doing this work. See, for those of us who understand organizing, we know that this is a long and arduous journey to get policies passed. And it's torches that has to be passed along the way, because sometimes we don't make it all the way to the passing of a policy, but we got the ball rolling. So we have somebody to pass the torch off to. So listen, we're living in a day and age where we are allowing politicians to tell us what they gonna do without even consulting us first. They telling us what they gonna do without even consulting us first. That to me is insulting to us. That they will have the audacity to tell us what they gonna do without even consulting us. Take care. Our representatives must represent us. They can't even say that they are our representatives if they don't represent us. Our representatives cannot say that they represent us if they don't represent us. That's where we got to hold them accountable. That's why I like the interview that Charlamagne Tha God had with Kamala, as he was pressing her on the issues. He didn't hold back. He didn't pull punches. He laid everything right there on the table and said, look, this is what it is. Answer these questions. What's up? You say you about that. What's up with this? And she answered the question. She said, someone says, Kamala doesn't represent us. Who represents us then? I listened to the interview very well. I paid attention to the interview. I watched facial expressions. I watched all this type of stuff. And I know sincerity when I see it. I know BS when I see it. And I think that she answered the questions honestly, truthfully, and genuinely. I think that people who are impartial, fair and impartial, can appreciate the answers that she gave. So again, oh, you must just came on my live. You said we represent us, not politicians. I already said that. But I said, if they are going to say that they represent us, we have to hold them accountable. That's what I said. If they say that they represent us, we have to hold them accountable. Because as I said, they work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. So if we don't like their performance, then that next go round, we can get down there and make our voices heard, saying that we don't like your performance and we don't want you to be our voice in Congress or nowhere else. So absolutely, I understand. But yes, I had already said that we have to hold these people accountable. See, if you had a team, you had a basketball team, for example, when LeBron James came on Cleveland Cavaliers, he came on Cleveland and they was talking about it's his team. Oh no, he got to show us why it's your team. Yeah, all that talking, show us why it's your team. If you saying it's your team, show us why. And then we will put you on that mantle to say, yeah, that's the guy. That's our leader right there. Same thing with these politicians. If they say they represent us, they got to prove it. We got to hold them accountable. We can't, as I tell politicians all the time right now, as I tell guys, politicians right now, and anybody know me, I've had these talks with politicians. I tell them, I say, I don't care about taking no pictures with you or none of that. If you're not for the people, I ain't for you. It's simple as that. Your picture don't validate my existence. Your picture don't calm the pain in my community. A picture with you don't do nothing for my people. My people need financial stability. We need lower housing costs. We need better health care. We need community centers. We need better schools. We need more job opportunities. We need more ability, access to bank loans, car loans. We need more access to live. So a picture with you, if a picture with you does not help those situations out that we going through every single day, then I don't care about taking no picture with you. I got pictures of Kamala Harris back 7 years ago. So, what that mean? I tell people this all the time. You know, because there's some people yesterday who was just so happy that Kamala Harris was in Detroit and they seen her and they was able to take a picture with her and they shook her hand. Man, I don't care about none of that, man. You think that mama who lost her son last night care about you taking a picture with Kamala Harris? You think that mama who can't pay her rent right now because she lost a job, you think she care about you taking a picture with Kamala Harris? You think Pastor Lawrence Sowell of 180 Church, you think that because you a Republican and Donald Trump came to speak at your church that somebody really care about? You think that them mothers really care about that when they lost their sons on the east side of Detroit? 18 children were shot. Did you even go over there? No, you did not. 18 children were shot over there on the east side of Detroit. You didn't even go over there, Pastor. So do you think people care about you because you had a meeting with Trump at your church? You think somebody care about you when you got mass incarceration of brothers that look like me sitting up in that prison for 3, 4, and 5 decades? Mothers crying, babies growing up fatherless. You think somebody care about because you met with Donald Trump, man? How many people have you helped out that's homeless on the streets of Detroit? Have Donald Trump given you any money to help get these people off the streets of Detroit? How many people have you taken into your church during the wintertime when it's freezing, winter cold, and they ain't got no place to stay? How many mothers got children, babies, and they have no place to stay, and you know about it, and you didn't let them in your church? See, that's what I'm talking about. So all of that because you took a picture with Donald Trump, you know Donald Trump, you had meetings with Donald Trump at your church. I don't care about none of that. That ain't gonna put no food on the table. That ain't gonna put no food on the table. That ain't gonna dry some of those crying eyes of those mothers that's losing their sons, their daughters. That ain't gonna stop children from being taken, children from being aped, ex-trafficked, because you talked to Donald Trump or because you took a picture with Kamala Harris. Listen, that's part of our problem in our community. We allow these people in these churches. It's a reason why in this modern day and time, people in the church have moved away from the preacher. They call themselves pastor now instead of preacher, because a preacher don't do nothing but talk. And that's what we got a lot of today, a lot of preachers, because all they doing is talking. They ain't doing nothing in our communities. And they somehow, some way trying to weasel their way into the back pocket of some politician. So when he scratches his butt, he could feel them right there. That's what they do. Meanwhile, brothers and sisters are constantly being incarcerated, and there's so many innocent people in Michigan that I know personally that's innocent, been fighting for their innocence for years and decades. Some of them are finally getting out now, decades later. So many of my friends, over 20, that I know personally, locking juveniles up, 13, 14, 15, 16, giving them life without parole, saying that they will never change. I'm one of them. I'm one of them right now. Served 3 decades in prison. And we have the lowest recidivism rate throughout the entire United States. We have the lowest recidivism rate. We have the lowest recidivism rate and the highest success rate throughout the entire United States today. Those of us who are former juvenile lifers and those of us who are former lifers and long indeterminate sentence serving individuals, we have the lowest recidivism rate in the United States. And you have one candidate who said he's going to be the law and order candidate. In fact, he went so far as to go back to the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s with the issuing street justice. He said that he believed, and I have this, it's all on in the media right now. He said that if those young people run into those jewelry stores and those stores and they do the snatch and grab thing, he said he see nothing wrong with shooting them in their back. Modern day lynching. What's up, Unc? Modern day lynching he support. But he just don't support the aspect of modern day lynching. He supports the old school lynching. That's why he tried to overturn the election, the last presidential election, and said if he don't win, blah, 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 blah. And he told his people to stand down, but stay on point until that time. And January 6th became that time. And now he just told his people, if I don't win, no, my fault, I apologize. He told the people, if I don't win, it's going to be a bloodbath. Dog whistles. Dog whistles. But yet you'll have a pastor like Lorenzo Sawell of 180 Church in Detroit talking about Kamala Harris's interview with Charlamagne Tha God. This was, let me quote that again. He said he never have been so offended in his life, and had the audacity to call Charlamagne Tha God a false god. I don't think Charlamagne Tha God thought he was the real God anyway. But when you have people who say they are the men or the women of God, but they support devilish ways, we all got the devil in us. Listen, if man would find his devil, he must look within. His name is self. So we all got the devil in us, but we contain it. But when you hear a man talks about how he unleashes the devil on a regular basis, he want to lock up all of his opponents, all of his political opponents. That's what dictators do. Lock up all of their political opponents and have them axed off the earth. Come on, y'all. We got to think better than this. We got to do better than this. We got to hold people accountable. We got to stop especially allowing our church leaders, our pastors, to try to convince us to run behind him because he's running up the butt of somebody else, because he's jumping off the bridge. Come on, man. I'm not jumping off the bridge with you. I wouldn't care what type of pastor you say you is, because you took a picture with Donald Trump. How much money you got, man? How much money you put in your pocket? Better not be dancing with the devil, because it's always going to come to light. I tell you that. You dance with the devil, it ain't nothing but devilish music you're going to dance to. So somebody going to see you when you're dancing. Tell you just like that. You dance with the devil. There's only one type of music that the devil dance to. And there's only one style of dance that the devil do. So you want to dance with the devil, we watching. And we're going to know if you dance with the devil. And we're going to hold you accountable accordingly. Just as we have to hold these politicians accountable accordingly, because if they say that they want this job of representing the people and they want to do this for the people, then we got to hold these people accountable. That's why I like the interview that Charlamagne Tha God did with Kamala Harris, because I haven't seen too many interviews to where the interviewer or the moderator is pressing the candidate to answer a certain question and not allowing the candidate to just skate on through, skate on back, slide on back, manipulate their way out of it, talk their way around it. every question that was asked to Kamala Harris yesterday during that interview, she answered. Every question. So, again, do we think that is any question that wasn't asked of Kamala Harris yesterday that should have been asked? Do you think it's any question that should have been asked of Kamala Harris that wasn't asked yesterday? Wow. Mia's LV Adventure said, what happened to Trump the other day? He couldn't even speak. That's the great distraction that they're trying to use Kamala Harris as right now. That's why they're trying to make Charlamagne Tha God look like he wasn't even worthy enough. He's not a real interviewer. He's not a real journalist. So her interview with him really doesn't count. So they want us to focus on that because they don't want to talk about Donald Trump and his stumbles and his continuous stumbles in his interviews. They don't want to talk about that. But guess what? We're going to talk about that. See, because we don't want a dictator. And I think that Donald Trump made it very clear that he wants to be a dictator and that if given another opportunity at the presidency, he's going to be a dictator. He said he's going to be a dictator on day one. Donald Trump said he's the law and order candidate. He's the law and order candidate. I have the tape, have the receipts. He said, I am the law and order candidate. But yet he broke every law. We have to start believing who people are when they tell us. If you tell me that you are a monster, I should not be scared to accept how you define yourself and treat you accordingly. If you tell me that you are a monster, here's a monster to me, y'all. This is a monster to me. Whether the allegations are true or false, we're just speaking of the mere allegation. When they spoke of how P. Diddy was allegedly doing whatever he was doing with these young people, these women, whoever, they labeled Diddy a monster, right? They say P. Diddy a monster. Trump said he did all this stuff. He said he did all this stuff. And guess what, y'all? Not only did he say he did all this stuff, but he's in the pictures with the guys who've been convicted of doing all this stuff. He's been all of their parties. The Diddy parties, Epstein parties. Come on, y'all. Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner. Come on, y'all. So when we talk about a monster, let's talk about a monster. And now let's separate the monsters from the people. Because we can't have monsters think that they're going to represent the people. Football players don't represent basketball players. and vice versa. So we have to call a monster and treat the monster accordingly, and not even allow the monster to have the audacity to think that he gonna represent us. And this go for anybody. I'm just talking about Trump right now, but this go for Kamala, Biden, and whoever else. If they are showing monstrous ways, we must treat them accordingly. Because a monster is a person who views his own daughter as a sex object, who says that he will grab the women, and he has grabbed women in their private parts. And he could do that when you got money. That's a monster. A monster is someone who feels that he could stand in the middle of Times Square and shoot someone and nobody will say anything. That's a monster. Because he feel like money will buy his way out of anything, and money will create fear in people so that the people will not rise up against him. That's called a dictator. A monster is someone who every chance he get tries to chew up and spit out the people who have not, the people who are struggling to live. That's what a monster is. A monster is someone who will not rent out his apartments to lower income people because they're not on his level or they don't have the right paint job. That's a monster. So we need to get our language right in how we describe people. Because sometimes you can understand people's politics by people's character. See, his character aligned with his politics. Dictatorship. Unhinged. Lack of concern for the people. Only concerned with billionaire friends. Only concerned with rubbing elbows with dictators around the world. So, we have to acknowledge people for who they are and stop, because even monsters smile, but that don't mean they friendly. Even monsters smile, but that don't mean they care. Even monsters smile, but that don't mean they're happy. Even monsters smile, but that does not mean that you have to smile back. Let's stop smiling at them. Let's stop playing with them. Let's stop walking and talking with them, allowing them into our front rooms, on our TVs, occupying space in our minds and stuff. We have to recognize people for who they are. This is why I was so captivated by the interview with Kamala Harris yesterday. Because everybody know Kamala Harris is kind of goofy. Everybody know that. She's kind of goofy. She like to laugh. She got loud laugh squeals and all type of stuff. Everybody know that about Kamala Harris. Who's ever been watching Kamala Harris throughout the years? We know that. But is anybody going to admit that she's always been the same person? She didn't change up. She never tried to put herself above anyone else. She never tried to make things appear what they were not. She never made a promise that she knew she wasn't going to keep. I didn't say she couldn't keep, but that she wasn't going to keep. For example, last year when they asked her about reparations, or the year before when they asked her about reparations, do y'all remember how much flack she caught by not answering that question? Why would she make a promise for something that she knows she can't keep? Because she can say, I'm going to do this, but if she ain't got a Democratic Congress, first of all, or if she do got a Democratic Congress, but everybody not on board, then it's not going to happen. So you have to say the stuff that you know or you believe that you can get through. That's just telling the truth. But we condemn her for telling the truth and praise Trump for telling a lie. That's because our shame and our glory has been misplaced. Let me say that again. We condemn Kamala for telling the truth, but we praise Trump for telling a lie. And yet, we are run on that mindset without even giving it a second thought. And some people will fight. Some people will fight me. Some people will threaten me because I said that we will condemn Kamala for telling the truth, but praise Trump for telling a lie. And we praise him all day because he lied all day. And then he'll turn right around and say he didn't even say that. And then they'll play the video back where he said it. And instead of saying, oh, I answered that wrong or something, he'll double down and say, no, that may have been how the video did it. Then he'll call it fake news. So listen, I hope that I have said something that enlightens people, that helps people to understand the state of mind that we must be in order to make a sound decision on the policies that will affect our lives. Not the politicians, but the policies that will affect our lives. We need policies in place that will help bring down home costs, help lower taxes, help lower car insurance, home insurance, help put better books in schools, help open up schools, help rebuild communities, help lower medical costs, help us to become homeowners, such as the bill that Kamala is working on, where she want to give $25,000 up front to first-time home buyers. That's a game changer. $25,000 to first-time home buyers. That's a game changer. Ain't nobody doing that. And then I also want to just say this here, because I'm about to get up off here, y'all. She addressed the issue of how Trump touts, brags, and so many of us talk about how Trump gave us money during COVID and he did this during. She made it very clear. Trump didn't do any of that. That stuff came through Obama. So let's stop giving Trump praise for things that he don't deserve to be given praise for. Let's stop that. We need to better educate ourselves in the policies and the politics that affect our lives. Let us be woke. Why do we think that when people was using the term woke, certain politicians was in total disagreement with the term even being used, woke, because it meant something. When you woke, your eyes are open. You see things when your eyes are open. You're able to discern things that you see. You're able to discern the truth from the falsehood. When you woke, your mind has been awakened. You're able to interpret things, acknowledge things, make rational and sound decisions based on what you have learned from your vision and from your thought. So they don't want people woke. They want people asleep. But we woke. We woke. And we know the work that it's going to take to better our conditions. And we know that it's all hands on deck. We're not looking for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump to change our lives. We're not looking for either one of them to change our lives. Because we know that if we want things in our lives changed, we have to be the changers. We have to be the change makers of our lives. What we look for out of these politicians is that when we voice what we want the politicians to move forward with a bill and create a policy that mirrors what the people is asking for. That's what we look for out of our politicians. We look for them to adhere to the needs of the people. Because at the end of the day, they work for us. We don't work for them. And we must always remember that. They work for us. We don't work for them. These politicians, they come to get the seal of approval from us every election year. They want our endorsement. It's like a man going to the father of his girlfriend and getting his blessing. That's what they come and do with us every election year. They come get our blessing. Our blessing is our vote. But if we don't stand up and understand the importance of our vote, we just give away our grains. Like when Jacob gave away his birthrights in the Bible, he just gave it away. We cannot afford to give away our blessings. We cannot afford for politicians to even think in their wildest imagination that they could just do anything and we don't hold them accountable. We can't afford that. We living in a time and space where people are showing themselves. People are telling who they are. And it's time that we start listening. It's time that we start listening. It's time that we get out of this misogynistic mindset, this I know it all mindset, or I don't want to know about it mindset. It's time that we get out of that mindset, because what we're really doing when we stay in that mindset is we're surrendering our children and our future to the dictation of people that don't have our best interests. We're surrendering our children and our futures to the dictation of people who do not have our best interests, and I refuse to surrender. I refuse to surrender. I ain't going, you ain't getting me easy. You got to get me. You got to come with some out of the world stuff to convince me that you ain't the devil. Because I know you. I see you. I worked with you before. I walked with you before. I listened to you before. So I know the sound. I know the sound of your voice. I know how you walk. I know the moves that you make. I know the plans that you put together. And the devil is in the details of these policies that people are talking about. The devil is in the detail. That's why we press people on the details. What are you going to do here? What are you going to do there? What does that mean when you said this and that? How is your policy going to benefit lower income people? How? See, the devil is in the detail. And it's always going to be a devil in the detail. And the devil will always prevail if we don't stay on our God. The devil will always prevail if we don't stay on our God. That means that we have to educate ourselves on the policies and politics that affect our lives. Then once we educate ourselves, we have to hold these politicians accountable who says they want to represent us. We have to hold them accountable, and we have to stop letting them slip through our fingers, letting them take us for granted, letting them think that it's going to be all right and they can do what they want to this year, next year, and then the fourth or fifth year, when they come back there and say, well, I'm going to do it this time. Yeah, you told us that last time. We cannot keep falling for the okie doke, cannot keep allowing ourselves to be hoodwinked and bamboozled. We can't do that. Even Judas was called a friend. I agree. I remember this one lady told me this was about 35 years ago. She said there was a bird that flew over a farm. She said the bird fell out of the sky and took some poop on the farm. She said, now the cat, cats are when they see something small like that, like a mice or little bird, they go to chasing after, try to eat it. So the cat seen the bird fall out the air into the poop. So the cat went to get the bird, took the bird, rescued the bird and put the bird over here, cleaned the bird off. Didn't do nothing bad to the bird. So I said, what's the moral of the story? She said that everybody that gets you in trouble ain't your enemy. And everybody that gets you out of trouble ain't your friend. She said, you have the mind to discern the real from the fake. So again, everybody that gets us in trouble ain't necessarily our enemy. and everybody that gets us out of trouble ain't necessarily our friend. We have to be thinkers, because the devil will get you out of some stuff to put you in some stuff. See, only God gonna get you out and keep you out. You gonna get yourself back in. So let's be mindful of the policies that people say they're trying to implement, that they say affects us in some positive way. Let's be mindful of this. Because just as I was talking about Kamala Harris being a prosecutor, and that's very similar to the story I was telling about. Just because somebody gets you in trouble don't mean that they're your enemy. So just because she locks somebody up don't mean she's an enemy. Or just because she got somebody out doesn't mean she their friend either. See, we have to be strong enough to make decisions on our own and not be swayed by those voices in our ears, not be swayed by people who we know don't represent our best interests, not be swayed by people who wants to convince us that what we're thinking is not right. We got to stand up, y'all. It's just simple. We got to stand up. We got to stay up, and we got to fight for what we believe in and stand 10 toes down on that. Listen, I'm going to let y'all go, man, because I'm going to let y'all go, and I'm going to say peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. And for those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I ask that you pass along the message, because someone needs to be inspired. Peace, y'all.